This is part 3 of the podcast where we're going to look at histograms. So we've still got that box and whisker plot up there. We want to change that to be a different kind of diagram, but looking at the same data. So let's go back to the stat plots, okay, which again is over the y equals button. So we can hit second y equals. If you hit enter, you'll look again at this menu for the first stat plot. It's still on. We want it on, of course. Type 1, or type, is what we're going to change. Right now we selected that box and whisker in the middle of the bottom row. Instead, we want this third option, which is a histogram or other kinds of bar diagrams that we'll investigate in part 4. For right now, it's going to give us a histogram. Let's hit enter, okay? And we're going to leave XList at list 1, that's where our data is, and we're going to leave frequency as 1 because again each data point has a frequency of 1. Each data point just shows up once. Right? If you go to the graph, which you can already see down here, you'll see that doesn't look very helpful. Again, it's because the window is off. So let's go back to the window. We're going from 0 to 20 by 2's. Our data is still the same, so it should make sense that 0 to 20 should work. But our y scale is a bit off. It goes from 0 to 1. But in this histogram, what we're representing on the y-axis is frequency. So we need to increase this so that it can show us the highest possible frequency for any range of values. So if we're going from 0 to 20 by 2's, that means 0 to 2 to 4, 6, 8, and so on. So pause for a second and take a look at the data and see if you can figure out how high we need to go, what is the highest frequency in any of these buckets. Have you figured it out? Did you pause it? Or are you cheating? No cheating. Pause it. Have you figured it out? Let's try going up to 2. You can see in the graph over here, this is a little better, but if you said 2, that wasn't quite high enough. What if we go to 4? 4 looks like it's high enough. In fact, 3 would be high enough, but I kind of like having an extra one up to 4 just to give us a little room in the graph. There's one other thing we can change to get a finer or more coarse picture, and that is this X scale, or the size of the buckets. If we wanted a finer picture, we could make that number lower. We could make it 1. So think about for a second what that's going to look like when I hit enter. There's the graph. It's a little better picture in a way. It's more detailed, but it could be that you have a whole mess of data, more than simply 15 numbers, in which case you probably want your ranges or your buckets to be bigger. So maybe we wanted 3 or 4. It's of course possible to make this too big because at some point the picture is not as useful. But what you have to do is probably experiment with it and think about what you're trying to show with your histogram. So this is the end of part 3. Part 4, frequency and cumulative frequency diagrams, is next.